had a conference call a couple of nights ago as a part of our C3 program, and listening to the women on our call who are facing primary infertility, who all of their cycles were completely shut down. And the one thing that kept resonating again and again was how similar it was for those who have experienced the struggle of infertility, and how similar that is for those of us who are now sitting in quarantine or in quiet or in shelter in place. There is this sense, at least for me, of this feeling of like, when is this going to be over? What is the end of this story going to look like? When will I know the outcome? Like, if you tell me I have to do this for 3 weeks, I could do anything for 3 weeks, but after 3 weeks, I'm going to be able to move on and live my life. And we hear this so much from couples and individuals who are struggling with infertility, is this idea of like, if I knew that in a year I'd have a baby, I could celebrate the year, maybe I'd even go on vacation if I had the money to pay for the vacation. But really, I don't have the ability to plan. I don't have the ability to consider what's going to happen in a month and 3 months' time. Everything feels very static. And I think that for the first time, perhaps for many people, they're getting an insight into that experience of those that are struggling to grow their family. That feeling of stuckness, that feeling of, I can't plan for tomorrow. I don't know what the summer is going to bring. I can't plan a vacation. I can't even know what my family will look like in a year's time. And I think for the first time, we are seeing and experiencing that deep darkness that people who are struggling with infertility feel on an extended basis. And that is where I think this is such an appropriate time for us to have this event. We talked about, is it appropriate? Like, we're dealing with so many other things. Why are we discussing infertility on the Thursday night, 2 weeks before Pesach, when everybody's home? I'm coughing, everybody else may be coughing too. Is this the time? And I felt like, if anything, Gila and I discussed this, if anything, now's the perfect time, because it's going to resonate with us and those in the community on a very different level. And so this is the moment where we begin to hold space. This is the moment where we sit in quiet and we watch and we listen and we learn about how people in our community face struggle. In addition to the quarantine struggle, they face the struggle of trying to build their family. That's the stage for tonight. And then I want to talk a little bit, though, about what I wanted to kind of focus on for this evening. Many of you may know, many of you may not know, that the American Society of Reproductive Medicine shut down almost all infertility clinics across the country, in the United States and in Canada. It is probably happening in other countries as well, not just the United States. My focus has been on the US and Canada. What this means for people is that they've literally were mid-cycle and they were told, just stop taking your meds because we're canceling the cycle on you. This was maybe their first IVF treatment that they were finally pursuing. They had gathered up enough money to pay for the medication, to pay for the treatment. They had had 3 unsuccessful IUIs before and were finally going for that IVF cycle, and it was stopped mid-cycle. Don't forget to even consider how much money was just wasted in just the injection medication alone, and nobody's paying that back. But there was a complete rupture, a moment where things began to finally feel like they were moving forward. And then all of a sudden, ASRM closed the door and said, we need to stop everything complete, with no letting you know. We will not be telling you. We don't know when our clinics are even going to reopen. Now, think about that from the perspective of a woman. And most of women feel this feeling of, but my biological clock is ticking, right? You say to me, okay, in a month, we'll start again. Or in 6 months, we'll start again. In 6 months, my eggs are 6 months older. In 6 months, I'm losing 6 months worth of fertility possibility. In 6 months, I don't know, it's going to be the middle of the winter. Maybe maybe I won't have a job. Maybe I'll have lost my insurance coverage that was finally going to pay for this insurance for this cycle. And all of this rupture happens. And the feeling of extraordinary devastation, of something yet again being torn away, not something tangible, but something, just the possibilities, just the hopefulness of maybe now I will be able to grow my family. And I think that, there's a salt in the wound moment as well, when so many of us who are blessed with a family are home parenting our children, and many are complaining about it mightily, right? And yet there's no way to kind of step away from that when you are without children. You are faced with the pretty graphic memes about what parents are going to do to their kids if this quarantine doesn't end soon, right? And there's no way to step away from that. And so I think that we want to take a moment of pause and acknowledge we are holding space for the grief that people are feeling right now, in the inability to move forward in this process, in the ability, this was their chance to move forward and to grow their family. This was it. This was their month. And it was ruptured, and it was torn to shreds in front of them. And they have no recourse. And they don't, and one of the hardest parts was every woman said to me, I'm not sure what I'm pinning my hope on right now, right? If you say to me in a month, in 6 months, but nobody's telling us when. And so to feel hopeful about the future is a very complex thing to feel right now. This is the struggle of couples that are dealing with infertility. This is the sense of being stuck in this middle zone without any real possibility of tomorrow being better, because they just don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. So for tonight, as we launch into our expert speakers, one after the next, who will share different facets of what it is to be dealing with infertility for those of you who have experience and for those of you who just don't, but are curious and are open to being receptive to an increased sensitivity and increased awareness. Our hope will be that there will be multiple facets of this experience that you will go, wow, I never thought of that. I didn't think of that. Yesterday I had the opportunity and I spoke with a friend, a colleague, and she said to me, the people that are in terms of the people that are dying, and she said, you know, they won't be able to have a tahara. There'll be restrictions on the tahara because of the contagion. And there was that moment where I went, oh, I didn't think of that. Those are the moments that give us pause, and those are the moments that raise our level of sensitivity and alertness and awareness to those in our community. I hope that tonight, with each of our experts, you'll have that moment from one or from many. We will go, oh, I didn't think of that. And that will let us be more alert and more caring and more sensitive to those of us who are struggling with infertility, for those in our families who are struggling with infertility, to those that we wish were at our Pesach Seder, who are struggling with infertility. Consider the pain of those around you, see them, hold space for them, and allow us as a communal space to take pause, to be compassionate. And our hope would be that this opportunity is one that in the future we will have no need for, or we will have many, many more shuls participating and supporting those that are in struggle.